Hey everyone, it's Zach, Ohio Skater. I got a really interesting topic for you today. So I went on Reddit, one of my favorite subreddits, classic subreddit. I don't go on Reddit much anymore, but I do still check up on this subreddit. It's called Capitalism v. Socialism, and it's just debates about capitalism versus socialism, and people post questions for like different ideologies, and you can tag yourself as whatever you are, and you can get specific with it, and people answer, and it's heavy on the economics. You know what I'm saying? I love economics, so it's heavy on the economics, and yeah, basically economic debates between capitalism and socialism. So I found a good one here that I want to talk about. I'm not going to say the dude's username, but you can probably find it on recent capitalism v socialism posts. But basically, do you think that Pierre-Joseph Proudhon, Mikhail Bakunin, Joseph Déjacque were totalitarian socialists or anarchist capitalists? So, this is very interesting. This is what I've been talking about as a mutualist the whole time. This thread gets into it. It says, these early 1800s philosophers were the original anarchists. Does that mean they were also capitalists? On grounds that because they declared that they were anarchists on grounds that self-proclaimed anarcho-capitalists declared in the 1950s, which they would say freedom equals capitalism. Then why did they originally describe themselves as socialists? Like, this is the same group of people. Why did these anarcho-capitalists why in the 1800s these socialists believed this? Why in the 1950s did these capitalists take it and make it capitalists and start calling themselves capitalists? Because these people were talking about the same things. You know what I'm saying? Like, so why did it eventually become a capitalist thing? Because these early 1800s philosophers were like the original socialists. That means if they were socialists, then the anarcho-capitalists would also say that they were totalitarians. But if they were anarchists and the anarcho-capitalist wants to in some way prove that they are anarchists too through those connections, then they would have to say that they are true anarchists and they are not totalitarians. So what would the anarcho-capitalists say? So yeah, that's basically it. What if they originally came up with anarchism and socialism to mean the same thing? And what if they didn't know ahead of time that people in the 1950s would invent a new anarchism equals capitalism definition after the fact? See? That's exactly what happened. And down here, the best answer, this guy who is obviously an ANCAP, he's got the little ANCAP star banner, the yellow and black or gold and black star. He's got a gold and black profile picture or whatever. So what he is saying is that being an anarchist means being against government. There are at least two ways of getting to this view. The older view associated with the ANCOMs is about hierarchies and why hierarchies are bad, and that government is the ultimate hierarchy, and so it must be opposed along with all hierarchies. And the more recent view, he says, which is associated with ANCAPs, is that government is aggression. Government is bad because it is aggression. It's inherently aggressive. It uses force, violent force, to enforce its system. What did I say in my anarchism video? Did I not say I was a voluntarist and a mutualist? Because I believe in both of those things. I believe that that government is force, and I believe it's a hierarchy, and I believe it's violent and it's a hierarchy. It's a violent hierarchy. There's no reason you can't take both of those views. But I suppose the more you add on to anything, the more socialist it becomes, maybe. I don't know. because ANCAPs like to keep it simple. I guess like this is force, and that's what we're sticking with because they have this whole definition behind it of their view of rights and individual rights and natural rights, and there's a whole history of like social Darwinist sociology in there, mixed into all that throughout the 1800s and up into the 1950s. Honestly, that whole period of time, basically. But he's saying that central control is the only stable endpoint of collective ownership. Debatable, you know what I'm saying? He's saying that socialists need to realize that any form of collective ownership will result in central control, and that's, I guess, what they need to realize according to this ANCAP dude. I don't think that's true, but he broke it down into like the ANCOM view. He said ANCOM view, and he said ANCAP view. And what did I say? I'm a mutualist. And what was in the very first video on anarchism I made, what did I say I believed? That I believed in mutualism and voluntarism, because I believe in both those things. I'm against hierarchy, and I'm against aggression. You know what I'm saying? So like, that's what I'm trying to say. Is that so this is totally making sense if you watched that video. Yeah, and they get into it. It's a good thread. So yeah. But that's what I have to say about that. I guess because the socialist he's talking about, the type of socialist he's talking about, is the type of socialist I am. That's like the type of socialism I believe in. Actually, is what he's referring to by these old school socialists. Like, there's a modern form of it. It's evolved. You know what I'm saying? There's still like a left wing form of it that has branched off. It's still sort of in the middle between ANCAP and ANCOM. It's mutualist. You know what I'm saying? It's just mutualism. Like, mutualism didn't disappear. But basically, anarcho-capitalists, what I say is that anarcho-capitalists basically pimped it. You know what I'm saying? They took it and they made it capitalist, and they made a whole bunch of money off of it. You know, that's the dominant form of libertarianism in America. But anyway, it's socialism that I do think would work. You know what I'm saying? Mutualism. Watch that video. My first video on anarchism is a longer video than this. This is going to be a shorter video, I guess. But the original socialists. And what if they had in mind that socialism meant anarchism? And what if anarcho-capitalism never was called anarcho-capitalism, and it just became a much more developed form of this original form of socialism? But you also had Marxism come up that was like, totally halted any other progress, totally stunted any other form of progress on any other form of socialism, because it tried to like monopolize socialism. You know what I'm saying? Like, we are what is socialist, and everything we say is socialist, and this is nothing even. Despite that, what he says here, it's the original socialism, and it's basically it's basically summed up as like mutualism. Yeah. And what would an anarcho-capitalist have to say about that? What would an anarcho-capitalist have to say about that? But this guy's sort of calling them ANCOMs, but they're not ANCOMs. But it's saying it started off the way that guy's describing it, and then split off, I guess. Well, I don't know. But either way, you can be against hierarchies and against aggression, people. It's not that complicated. That would be what my whole system would be about. So, anyway, peace.